Shabbat Shalom, my precious brothers and sisters, December the 13th, 2014, and welcome to this very special service today. Now, the gospel of Jesus Christ is free. The gospel of Jesus Christ is to be preached freely. The Apostle Paul never once asked for money. He never asked for help with feeding the widows and the orphans, the poor, the needy, the homeless. You know, Pastor Dave, it would do him good to follow the teachings and the examples of the Apostle Paul. Because Pastor Dave may not have a mega church, he may not be a televangelist, he may not be of the prosperity gospel, but what he's doing is works. He's asking for help to feed the homeless with his homeless ministry and outreach. And that is works. It would do Pastor Dave good to follow the teachings and the examples of the Apostle Paul, who never ever asked anyone for help. He relied on God to provide. Let's go to the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 8 and 9. And I can't tell you how many times this has been spoken to me here on YouTube, or the verse has been quoted or sent to me. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. I want to take everyone, if I can, to the book of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians in chapter 9. Now, once again, so many have made it clear to Pastor Dave what I'm doing is it's works. And the Apostle Paul never begged for money. He never asked anyone for anything to help the poor, the orphans and the widows and the homeless. He never took a collection. He never asked for money, because that is works. Now in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, we see that the Apostle Paul is sending a letter to the Corinthians ahead of time. He doesn't want them to be caught off guard. He doesn't want them to be embarrassed when they arrive. Let's go to the living word. Now, before we do, I want to make it clear that it is written in the New Testament. Look, the Apostle Paul was very, very difficult to understand, and so many today have taken the words of the Apostle Paul and taken them all out of context. Again, this is a letter to the Corinthians, making sure that they're ready ahead of time so that they are not caught off guard, that they're not embarrassed in any way. 2 Corinthians chapter 9. For as touching the ministry to the saints, it is superfluous. That's a tough word. It is superfluous for me to write to you. For I know the forwardness of your mind, for which I boast of you to them of Macedonia. Here the Apostle Paul is boasting of the Corinthians, boasting of them, of Macedonia, that Achaia was ready a year ago. And your zeal hath provoked very many. They were very, very generous. The church at Corinth, the Corinthians were generous with their offerings. Yet have I sent the brethren, lest our boasting of you should be in vain in this behalf. But, as I said, ye may be ready. He didn't want them to be not ready after he had been singing their praises and boasting of their generosity, with their bounty, with their offerings, with their money to help the early church, to feed the orphans, the poor, the hungry, the homeless, the widows. Lest, haply, if they of Macedonia come with me and find you unprepared, we, that we say, not ye, should be ashamed in the same confident boasting. That's why he's sending a letter ahead of time. He wants to make sure that they're not ashamed if they are not ready and they have no offering. They have no collection or bounty to give. Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren, that they would go before unto you, and make up beforehand your bounty. Now he's going to send the brethren ahead of time to collect the offerings, to help feed the poor, the tired, and the hungry. Well, the Apostle Paul never asked for anything. Wherefore ye had noticed before that the same might be ready, as a matter of bounty, and not as of covetousness. Let's go to verse 6. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly. These are the words of the Apostle Paul. And he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according as he purposed in his heart. So let him give, not grudgingly. Apostle Paul never asked for money. In verse 7, every man according as his purpose in his heart. So let him give, not grudgingly, or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. The words of the Apostle Paul. Verse 8, and God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. This is the Apostle Paul, the one who is so misunderstood, so hard to understand. I think this is very easy to understand. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. As it is written, he hath dispersed abroad, he hath given to the poor, his righteousness remaineth forever. Now he that ministers seed to the sower, both minister bread for your food, and multiply your seed sown, and increase the fruits of your righteousness. Powerful. Being enriched in everything to all bountifulness, which causeth through us thanksgiving to God. For the administration of this service not only supplieth the want of the saints, but is abundant also by many thanksgivings unto God. Whilst by the experiment of this ministration they glorify God for your professed subjection unto the gospel of Christ, and for your liberal distribution unto them and unto all men, and by their prayer for you, which long after you for the exceeding grace of God in you. Thanks be unto God for this unspeakable gift. The Apostle Paul indeed relied on the bounty. And in his letter to the Corinthians, this is so crystal clear. You cannot gain salvation by good works, by any good works whatsoever. You can help all the homeless, you can feed the world. But if you do not accept Jesus into your heart, there is only one way for salvation. But once you are saved, you will do good. The Apostle Paul did rely on help. He did rely on help and ask for offerings and donations, as we see in his letter to the Corinthians. I want to thank those that have given so much to this ministry. The month of December, it's been a very difficult, trying time. I want to thank a person I know. They really want to remain anonymous, for a precious $100 offering to our homeless ministry, their bounty, and thanksgiving to God to help those brothers and sisters less fortunate and in need. And I want to thank a precious viewer, Kevin, for a $100 offering to our ministry to the homeless. I love you all. I want to share some statistics with you now. The 2014 statistics have come out by the National Association of Retailers. Let an estimated $600 billion will be spent on Christmas by Americans this year, 2014. $600 billion. It'll be spent on gifts, on presents, on trees, on food, and on travel. $600 billion will be spent. in the United States of America this year, 2014, on Christmas, while God's people, the poor, suffer, freeze to death, and die of hunger in the United States of America. God bless you. If you feel led to give to our ministry, I will provide you with the link below.